science, nous on fait de la science. Nous on travaille pour la science. Pour la science.
Bonsoir, Max.
Bonsoir, Paul.
So we're here today with Maxime Coulot, Paul Jennings, and we have a guest. This is Cormac Murphy. Cormac, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Cormac. I'm
Speaking to that Cormac.
There we go. I'm also from Dublin, like Paul, but from a different part.
He's from the north side.
I'm from the north side, which, based on our accents, you'd imagine it was the opposite. But I'm a PhD student in Paul's lab.
PhD candidate.
PhD candidate.
As you call it, yeah. So today we're going to talk about poisons and how people get poisoned and famous poisonings. Who wants to start?
So,
Yeah.
do you
You want to go on?
Yeah, sure.
And maybe we should warn any potential listener if this podcast ever gets released that the sound quality might be slightly different because this time we're the three of us in the same room,
Yeah.
which is a new format.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we are having snacks, which is not always helping for getting a right pronunciation, but let's hope it will be good.
And Max is still French.
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
And you're two Irish.
absolutely. And we're
So
gonna
nobody's speaking proper English.
try and pronounce Latin names, which all of us will struggle with.
But I
But
think the idea for this is, so as we keep saying, Max and me, Paul, we are molecular toxicologists. We grow cells in the lab and we kill them with toxins. So our idea was, what about these famous poisonings? Not necessarily assassinations, but poisonings. And it came to my mind immediately, Ludwig van Beethoven, who unfortunately became deaf because he used to drink out of this lead beaker, and the lead made him deaf. And it's kind of boring, actually, the process of how lead makes you deaf. But Cormac's definitely more entertaining.
But I mean, the process by which Beethoven became deaf by this kind of continual and gradual poisoning by something he didn't know was poisonous is kind of a lot of what I've been looking into the
The
history.
fact that a composer becomes deaf, it's like the worst thing for a composer to be deaf.
Yeah, it's one of those dramatic irony things that if you wrote it in a book, people would think you're making
it up. Yeah.
being a bit too silly. So the two things I really looked into today were two compounds or two things that we've been accidentally poisoning ourselves with for, in one case, thousands of years. So they are mercury and deadly nightshade, or belladonna.
I heard in the news recently that in Suriname they're using now mercury to claim gold from mines. It's crazy.
No, it's not new.
Yeah.
It's nothing new.
Oh no,
No, but they're doing it now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They always do it.
But
Yeah.
that's I mean, you use a really precious metal like mercury to get out a shitty non-toxic metal. I mean, it makes no sense.
No. Of
Gold
course,
is a useless metal.
yeah, but the point is that you can sell it. So they
it's a
do it.
desirable metal.
Yeah.
So it's
Desirable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, that comes into it because they've been using mercury to mine gold for thousands of
Yeah.
years. So it's one of the, when I was looking up, one of the worst places you can ever be in history would be if you really pissed off one of the Roman emperors. They would send you to mine mercury, and we knew it fucked you up even back then because of all the bad reactions. people would
No
have.
cursing. It's BBC.
We knew it messed you up
Yeah.
real bad back then because of all of the side effects that happened to the miners and why it was why you couldn't get any volunteers to go down.
The amount of mining diseases. It's
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. That being said, we knew that mercury did this to you, but people still thought mercury could do magical things to you because it was so weird and it looked so pretty. And
It is very pretty.
it is very pretty.
It's very fucking heavy.
It is, and if anybody had a mercury thermometer break open when they were a kid and played with mercury for a bit, it's very pretty. Shouldn't do it. You really, really shouldn't do it, but it's very pretty.
Isn't it the way they made Terminator 2 reassembling it? But I think that's the way they did it. Do you remember that?
Which one?
Yeah, Terminator.
Terminator.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
The number
yeah.
2 is the T-1000.
the liquid metal. Yeah.
He got smashed after being frozen
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then reassembled himself. I think it's made out of mercury
I think the effects were
Fusing.
definitely based on.
I'm
on
pretty sure
mercury.
they couldn't afford to make a mercury robot.
Of course they could. Oh no, the robot of course was not made of mercury, but I mean the sci-fi people, they simply
They
filmed
imagine-
how mercury was
Yeah,
moving
yeah,
and
they
reassembling.
they
it.
imagine it. Yeah,
Yeah.
imagination. Yeah, that's what sapiens do. We imagine.
Yeah. But no, if you look back at the things they thought mercury would be, because it's always been used as a medicine, or it's been used as a medicine up until horrifyingly recently. But like, there's some crazy stuff of like, oh yeah, it'll like how people poison themselves with mercury depended a lot on how they were exposed to the mercury. So
But
you
isn't the
know,
point they didn't do it to themselves? They were made to do it.
well, no. Quite frequently, people did it to themselves
Yeah.
because they thought of it as a medicine. So
Really?
Yeah. No, mercury.
It would give them some kind of magical power.
Well, it was often.
How? What
And
is it?
change
Long-term-
Lind into gold as well.
Well, alchemists viewed it as something that could be turned into gold. Cinnabar, which is mercury and sulfur, was widely used in traditional medicine and alchemy. But there's some stuff like if you eat it, you live forever. Or my favorite one was if you rub it on your feet, it'll make you be able to walk on water, which is wonderful. But
Actually, it would do the opposite.
yeah.
Because it's metal, it's heavy.
It's if anything could make you walk on water, that would be an interesting story to begin with. But no,
wrong
But the point is that rubbing your feet with mercury is actually not dangerous and not toxic probably.
oh no,
It's absolutely safe. The problem is the vapor of it, right?
the vapor, or because a lot of these things were like mercuric salts or something like that, which are relatively less dangerous unless you're continuously exposing yourself. So a lot of these like
I heard of a
mercury-
case, I can't vouch for this anymore because I don't remember the details, but there was a woman, she was poisoned, she was injected with mercury by a lover or something, or in hospital,
Jesus.
something creepy, and she was injected many, many times with mercury, and they found her 20 years later, she was still fine, and the mercury had collected in the lower part of the left heart, and it was totally fine.
Jesus Christ, because
Because if you have mercury in your lab or here now in my bar,
yeah.
the thing is it gets covered with dust immediately.
No,
So it's not toxic because it's very
it oxidizes very quickly.
and it's metallic, so it tracks.
Yeah.
But as an electronic charge, so all of the dust gets on it, and then it's safe.
Oh,
Yeah.
should we kind of be sensible and act responsibly and warn people if you ever see mercury somewhere? Always remember it's quite volatile, so don't get close if you can not get close to it. And if ever...
But why would somebody see a mercury?
This kind of mercury thermometer are still quite common. They are not allowed anymore,
not anymore.
almost everyone
It's all
has it
electronic
still.
now.
No, also the one which helps with predicting the weather. They are also made
Oh,
of
the
mercury.
barometers, yeah.
And they are almost in every old house.
No, I
So
found
if you-
some when I was a
Well,
kid.
Cormac, I wanted you to finish your mercury story, and then I wanted to go on to something else. So go on.
All right. Well, I'm sure you guys have talked about Paracelsus before.
Oh yeah, many things.
So Paracelsus had a lot to do with mercury because he was a big old alchemist, but his real
Now, hang on, just for our audiences, alchemy was just the original chemist. That's all.
with aspects of mysticism and
Yeah,
stuff.
but I didn't know.
But no, what he did was really good because he mercury was widely used, and what it was most widely used as a medicine in history was to treat syphilis. So syphilis is a venereal disease.
Well, we actually talked about syphilis before because we were talking about workers' diseases, and syphilis was a workers' disease.
Oh, syphilis was why mercury was the most common treatment for syphilis for most of human history.
How does that work?
Well, it is actually like it is a spirochete side, so it will mercury will destroy the syphilis virus or its bacteria.
Should destroy any cell. If
It'll destroy most things if it goes onto it, but people were ingesting it, which was absolutely fucking useless.
how do you take mercury?
You can take mercury. So there are powdered forms of mercury. So there's mercury combined with chlorine makes a thing called Colmel, which is the most common thing people take. But Paracelsus he recommended changing it from an elixir, so something you drank, which was no fucking good, to a topical ointment.
Again, can you like release the language, please?
Apologies.
BBC.
Yes,
Okay.
which was no. So you used it. It was previously used as an elixir, so something you drank. So that wasn't any good.
Well, elixir just means sugary, right?
In this case, it meant something that you drank.
Okay. Yeah.
So he changed it into a topical ointment, where it at least had some efficacy in terms of if you applied it, it would burn away the stuff on the top. Now, admittedly, applying mercury to your open sores in sensitive areas probably cost you your sensitive areas, but
Because water would be better, to be honest.
yeah, it was a bad idea. But again, this was half because people thought it had magical properties as well as scientific properties.
Okay.
So this is why mercury is not. We don't use it today to treat syphilis.
Can we just move over to Maxine Kulo there and talk about the Mad Hatter?
Yeah, actually, if we mention mercury, the one very famous case is Minamata Bay, which is the Japanese poisoning event which happened there, and which basically leads to some of the concepts that we now use in ecotoxicology about bioaccumulation and biotransformation. So this company in Minamata was basically releasing tiny amount of mercury, but over years, and it was supposedly safe, except the fact that it was just going deep in the water, and then some bacteria were transforming it into methyl mercury, which then was the poisoning one, accumulating into the small fish and resulting in people eating the fish. So basically, the fishermen living there were the first one to get poisoned, and they were the people with so-called Minamata disease.
Yeah, but Mad Hatter.
Yeah. So wait.
Sorry.
But this one is famous, and Johnny Depp starred in a movie about the famous.
Johnny Depp, he had a famous girlfriend, didn't he? Was it Amber Heard, was it?
Yeah. But besides
Let's not date our podcast too much.
Besides that, he starred into a movie called Minamata, which is about the journalists who bring this story to the world in life at that time. So now, because I had to teach ecotoxicology, I learned a bit about it myself, and then I got also interested in
It's very good, Max. It's very good you learn stuff before you teach it.
No, actually, I was always told the best way of learning something is actually to teach it.
Yeah, but it's good you learn it before you teach it.
No, I teach it, which is the way I learn about it.
What did they say? Those who can do, those who can't teach.
Teach. Yeah. That's mainly for art critics or art teacher. But anyway, and then I found this story about Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. So actually,
Johnny Depp played in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's my link.
There you go.
So anyway,
Tim Burton, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. This Mad Hatter is. I didn't use that because I think it's more popular in. I will try not to insult anyone. In England and in UK, the story about the Mad Hatter.
It's Alice in Wonderland.
It's a US thing, isn't it?
Lewis Carroll is British.
No, Lewis Carroll is from Cambridge or Oxford. One of the two.
Okay, but in English culture, it's huge. Yeah. So America, Ireland, England.
Yeah, but no, the Lewis, very famous part of the Alice in Wonderland story is where she meets the Mad Hatter. But
now explain the Mad Hatter, because the Mad Hatter was he didn't invent this. It actually came from people who were making hats. Max told me this.
Yeah, it was a famous quote apparently to say someone is mad as a hatter, and the reason for that is that at the time of EV production of hat without any specific.
So this is what you put on your head
or any kind of.
I mean, he's French, so his language is great. Yeah. So it's what you put on your head.
Yeah. So that was what French try to pronounce and sounds like So those people making the hat were using a lot of mercury, like many other people working in fabrics. But the difference was that to give the shape to the hat, you have to warm the tissue, and the tissue was containing mercury. And by heating it, then it was, of course, vaporizing it, which was resulting in people poisoning themselves with mercury vapor, making them crazy, and ended up with the quote, mad as a hatter.
Yeah. Now, one of the...
And what's the molecular... So we always talk about molecular stuff. So what's the molecular...
I don't know. That's particularly your responsibility.
Not mercury. I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
I can talk about arsenic, but...
there are a couple of ways. It depends again on what the mercury is. If it's methyl mercury or something like that. I think elemental mercury or stuff like that, if there's still enough of that, it can pass the BBB and it can accumulate in the brain.
But accumulate has to interact with the cells.
Yeah, no, it causes redox reactions as far as I know. And,
like most metals,
but that's where ingested mercury mainly fucks up the kidney. Messes up the kidneys and the.
I don't know what's wrong with North Dublin people. They swear a lot.
We do. But the hatters would, particularly the felt of the lining of the hat was a very important part, and that was what part they used mercury to make it more malleable. Was that mercury thread, was it? No, they used mercury to make the felt more malleable when they were moulding it into the lining. Yeah. But like, kind of as you imagine, if somebody like when they turn a piece of when they're like turning an old book, they would lick their fingers in between to kind of help, and this is why they would be exposed to a lot of mercury.
Will you get Max a glass?
I will indeed.
So we wanted to also talk about. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about arsenic because everybody. It was the original poison.
Yeah,
I think thousands of people have been poisoned by arsenic, and people use it as a tonic. So I work a little bit with arsenic myself, so I know how it works. So it basically replaces zinc in proteins, and it makes the proteins malfunctionable. And then we have a pathway called NRF2 that protects against it, and methyltalatinine. So I'm actually not sure what arsenic, but for cadmium, methyltalatinine is produced to bind off these exogenous metals.
What's exogenous for us in the cheap seats?
Exogenous is something you take in from the outside that you don't need necessarily, and so like cadmium, you get it in your food, and you don't need it. It's a non-functional metal.
it's not related to whether you need it or not. It's just that it's coming from the outside.
Yeah, but it's not.
Whether you need it or not doesn't. It's still exogenous.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but there's loads of metals you need, like zinc and iron. And, but cadmium.
No, I mean, the definition of exogenous is that it doesn't come from you.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's not associated to whether you need it or not.
Oh yeah, sorry, right. Yeah, it's just from the outside. Yeah. So I now I'm already bored with arsenic. Cyclosporin A. So cyclosporin A was a.
It's not a famous poisoning. Is there any famous poisoning about?
Well, it's not really a poisoning because it was they found it on a soil sample in the 70s in Canada, and it was Novartis scientists that brought it back to Novartis. And in the late 70s, they were able to do transplant medicine for the first time because of this. But they just injected it in rats and mice, and so what happened. Mm-hmm. And it was an absolutely potent immunotoxin. So it prevented T cell proliferation. And then they go, wow, that's cool. Mm-hmm. So what if when we're giving a kidney or a liver or a heart to somebody, we give this? And that's what they did. And it worked perfectly well. That's a poison. I mean, everything that inhibits biology is a poison. So cyclosporin is a very potent poison, but it's potent on the T cells.
So it stopped stuff like graft versus host disease and
exactly, yeah. And without cyclosporin, I mean, we would have found something else. Mm-hmm. But without cyclosporin, there wouldn't have been transplant medicine in the 80s.
It's an incredible story it sounds almost fictional. Where the idea of like we found this just in a patch of dirt in the ground and brought it back to the lab, and hey, now we fix transplant medicine. Or we greatly improved transplant medicine.
Yeah, I mean, there's this statement that everybody talks about alternative medicine and Chinese medicine, or whatever. But if it worked, we'd use it. Mm-hmm. Oh, if it was patentable as well. There's sometimes a load of stuff out there that's just not patentable.
If it worked, then we can make money from it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about President. What was his name, Max?
Viktor
Yushchenko. So I work in a pathway called the aryl hydrocarbon receptor pathway, and basically we think there's a endogenous ligand, a tryptophan kind of metabolite, but it mostly responds to exogenous things like dioxins. I guess some of you have heard of dioxins. And if you smoke cigarettes or if you're exposed to smoke, there's a compound called benzoate in smoke, and this activates it. And when this pathway gets activated, it starts increasing the metabolism of the cells with CYP2A1 and CYP2A2, and it can metabolize the compound that was the ligand, and it can metabolize it to a genotoxic compound. So benzoate is an example for that. And dioxins are terrible because they stay in your system. They bind to fat and they just stay in your system almost forever.
There are also the orange adjunct, right? They're the same, right?
Yeah, but that was a contaminant. They didn't. So Agent Orange was a defoliator, and by accident it was contaminated with dioxins. It wasn't what the Americans intended. It was just an accident.
Yeah. The point was not to use it as a poison; it was used to.
No, but Agent Orange was not a dioxin. Their batch got contaminated with dioxins. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like heavily.
Yeah.
Because dioxins come from burning stuff, so oil or whatever. So obviously it was in a factory somewhere and there was an oil drip, and it contaminated their whole batch of Agent Orange, and thousands and thousands of people died from dioxin poisoning, and babies had malformations. Horrible. I mean, the Vietnam War was horrible. Anyway. You guys started that.
What?
The French started that.
Yeah.
And the Americans didn't finish it. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so back in, actually I don't remember the date, it was, what's his name again? Yushchenko,
Viktor Yushchenko.
So Viktor Yushchenko was president of Ukraine from 2005 to 2010. He was the third president of the Ukraine. And already then he got poisoned by he met basically a Russian diplomat, and he drank tea in his place, and they put dioxins in his tea.
It's not the assumption, it was never proven.
He had 60 times dioxins than is possible.
Yeah, no, it was proven that he was intoxicated with dioxin. It was not proven that it was from the tea that the guy.
Yeah, okay, but he was. It was very convenient that he was in I mean, we talked about this before. When the Vikings and the Celts met each other and the Romans, they would cheers because they would spill their drinks into each other. So obviously they didn't do that.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I kind of wanted to say. So
sorry. So the other thing I want to talk about was Belladonna, or Deadly Nightshade. It's pretty little berries, black berries, and you can find them. Well, they look like blackberries. They are.
Did you get them a glass?
Yeah,
I did. Here's a glass over there.
Where is it? Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But these things have been used as poisons for. Well, these have on purpose been used as poisons for a really long time.
So tell us what belladonna is.
Belladonna, it's a plant. It's a plant that has a chemical or a couple of alkaloids in it, which are main one is atropine.
Oh.
So yeah.
Okay. So it'll stop your heart.
Yeah. And a lot of other pretty nasty things it'll do.
What was the one you were talking about before? The other one that speeds up your heart, Max?
What?
You were saying, on the darts. Remember our first podcast?
Yeah.
You put this.
Poison arrow?
Yeah.
Frogs?
And that's the opposite of atropine. Or is it the same?
No, atropine is basically epinephrine, right?
No.
Oh, no, sorry.
No.
Yeah, so what is atropine? Atropine, I knew what it was.
I mean, it is an alkaloid, so
it blocks. It blocks
it's an
sodium.
Yeah, it's an
sodium
It's a
potassium
par.
channel.
It blocks acetylcholine A.
It's just a parasympathetic inhibitor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I hope none of my students listen to that because I'm teaching practicals with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but you said the compound in the oils of the frogs in the Amazon. It is an atropine thing, isn't it? You said the name in the first podcast.
Yeah, no, I refer to where the word toxicology was coming from. So
Yeah.
The word toxicology.
Yeah, but what is that chemical in the?
I'm not Cura, I think.
Oh, Cura, yeah.
Curare.
Yeah, and Cura is also active.
I don't know much more other than that it is a
God, we're
toxin.
fucking useless. 2 fucking professors and 1 PhD candidate, and we don't know the fuck what the hell.
Well, the main reason I know that is Agatha Christie.
Oh God.
Don't knock her. She was a chemist
she's
during
great.
the war.
Yeah, she was
Well, no, but she was a chemist during the war, so that's why she knew what all the poisons were.
Okay, go on about belladonna.
But belladonna, it used to be used. It's called belladonna, meaning pretty lady, and it was called that because it used to be used in beauty products.
I never associated that before. Belladonna.
Belladonna, pretty lady.
Wow, yeah, pretty lady.
It's another famous scientist. Its name got its Latin name from Linnaeus himself, the guy who gave everything all the Latin names. So it's Atropa belladonna. So atropa is
atropine, right?
where we get atropine, but atropa comes from Atropos, who was. Do you know the Greek fates? There were 3 women who were meant to put out your life. They're like a tapestry.
So there's
of your
2
life.
people nodding in the bar, and not me.
That's all right. Basically, 3 women. They do a tapestry of your whole life. Atropos was the one with the scissors who cuts it to say you're dead now.
Oh, good.
So it's the translation of belladonna's Latin name is basically the pretty woman of death.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Actually, we were talking about this. Sorry, this is a sidestep now.
Mm-hmm.
So in Ireland, we don't call people with dark skin black people. we call them Far Gurum
Yes, blue people.
because the devil was black.
Yeah,
And the Irish people could not call another person black because it meant he was the devil. I mean,
Yes.
we don't think black people are devils.
No.
So we call them blue people.
Yeah.
Smurf.
Far Gurum.
Fargurum. Yeah.
No, not Smurfs. Don't be creepy now.
Well, it actually ended up with a funny thing in the States when you had that whole the response to Black Lives Matter where they were talking about cops and Blue Lives Matter, and a bunch of people did it in Irish on their back of their shirts, not realizing that what they were actually writing was the Irish for Black Lives Matter.
Really?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, but
I mean, I did. Now we're talking about Black Lives Matter. All these stupid fucking white people who fucking missed this
That's not
opportunity.
the topic of our podcast.
I know. But it wasn't a Black Lives Matter only. It means a Black Lives Matter also.
yes, yeah.
That's the point. Sorry, Cormac, go ahead.
But no, this one is a really famous one because it ends up in Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. The poison that they take is belladonna,
Oh, right.
and it also ends up in the guys who inspired Shakespeare. Because I didn't actually realize this until I did study for this. Macbeth was an actual dude.
What do you mean he was a dude? He was like cool?
Well, he was a real person,
Oh, okay.
and he poisoned a bunch of enemies' food at a feast. Kind of where you're talking about these people
With belladonna?
knocking their things. Yes, with belladonna.
Now, hang on. I call bullshit on this because if you eat belladonna,
Yeah.
it won't get into your blood system, so it won't kill you.
It would.
I think it still would, but also it doesn't necessarily. A lot of cases, small doses of belladonna doesn't kill you; it just makes you sick, and it can give you hallucinogenic effects.
Oh, really?
They consider it similar to like ergot in terms of people getting
So does
the
it
witch
fuck up
trials.
does it fuck up your microbiome maybe?
I'm not quite sure why it gives you hallucinogenic effects, but it acts as a stimulant. So people definitely use it to get high.
So then it's definitely reabsorbed from the gut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it would kill you.
Oh yeah. No. But
How big is it?
how big is the plant? Or
No, the chemical.
I do not know.
Wait, you're supposed to research this, Cormac?
Oh yeah.
And belladonna is also potentially part of the aqua-ditofana composition. Aqua-ditofana was the number one poison in the 17th century.
Oh.
It was named after the girl who
What was it?
advertised it. Aqua-ditofana. So Tofana is the name of the girl, and she's assumed to have poisoned something like 600 to 700 person.
Oh.
She was famous for helping you getting rid of your nasty husband, basically. And her name was Giulia di Tofana, and I think she was either Sicilian or south of Italy, maybe Bari or something like that.
Well, it would have been very accessible because it was a big beauty product in Venice, so
yeah.
it would have been very accessible.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the two empresses of Rome used it to get rid of their nasty husbands, so
Yeah.
it's very popular. But
What's wrong with knives or
Um,
axes?
So
Messy?
What was it?
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. Oh fuck.
Oh, it's deadly nightshade.
deadly nightshade, yeah. I kind of like they have to specify deadly because other nightshades are just tomatoes and potatoes.
Yeah. Well, do you know it's very toxic to.
Just to comment on that, what's wrong with knife? I actually, what's the name of that one? The nasty one in Gladiator. What's his name?
Oh, Commodus.
Commodus. So
Yeah.
Commodus' death was provoked by his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a terrible emperor, doing bad for the Roman Empire, and his wife was planning on killing
Carefully, you
him.
might sue.
Yeah, maybe. Or his.
It's a great lots
exactly.
of great.
So no, but it said that his wife tried to poison him, but he was training himself already. So they knew about. I think it was about antimony, and apparently he was training himself, meaning that they use microdose of antimony to get resistant about it. And then the poisoning make him just feeling uncomfortable, but not obviously dead. So then he went for a bath, and she basically then paid one of his favorite slaves to kill him with a knife in the bath.
Oh, Cormac, you know the story about the Irishman in the 1700s who went.
Oh, the Invincible Mike Malloy.
Tell that story.
Yeah, the Invincible Mike Malloy or the Irish Rasputin. So this is a guy. He was, I think it was in New York,
I think it was in Europe.
It was
or
definitely
Chicago.
It was in the States. It was somewhere in the States where an Irish enclave where Irish people had gone far, and this one particular Irishman was a local at a bar. And the bar owner. So surprising, so surprising. Yeah. And he was
Irishman in a bar. What?
Yeah. This guy was a terrific alcoholic, and his the bar owner and his friend would see this guy come in. He'd be a bit of a nuisance all the time, and they were like, "Does Mike have any family over here?" And they're like, "No, not really." So like nobody would miss him if we did. Like if something happened to him, like not really. And they're like, "Great." So they brought him down to the local bank.
Well, you have to tell the insurance part of it.
I'm just about to say, they brought him down to the local bank and took out a life insurance policy on Mr. Mike Malloy. Now, he had to agree to do this.
Was he like in the 1700s, sir?
Yeah. He had to agree to do this, but he wasn't drunk. He wasn't that drunk to like do something for nothing.
But they bought him a beer, I guess.
What they said, if he signed this life insurance policy and signed them as the beneficiaries, he could drink for free, unlimitedly for the rest of his life.
Fucking cool.
Which they assumed that he would come in and drink himself to death because he would come in and instead of drinking pints, he would just be like, I'll just have like bottles of whiskey until I sleep.
Yeah.
Which he would come in and he would drink bottles and bottles and bottles of whiskey. And they assumed he'd be dead. And then...
Actually, we had a podcast about ethanol.
Yeah.
So listeners, please go back and look at our podcast about ethanol. It's very, very good for you.
Go back and listen to it. And eventually, 3 weeks later, a lot of bottles of whiskey lighter, he was still coming in. And they were getting worried. So eventually, they decided...
They got him worried because he was drinking all the beer, right?
He was drinking all the beer and all the money. He was drinking all the spirits. So, all the good stuff. But eventually, they decided that one day when he passed out, they'd drag him outside, they took off all his clothes, and they left him in a snowdrift in the cold winter.
So we discussed this as well. So alcohol causes vasodilation. So if you're... you get cold quicker when you're drunk, basically.
Yeah. But not Mike Malloy. He walks in the next day being like, lads, you would not believe
and he must have been a Southsider.
It must have been. You guys are apparently cold proof. But
just tougher than you Northsiders.
I know that isn't true. I have accidentally broken the collarbones of at least one Southsider.
That's an anecdote. Anyway, go on.
All right. But he came back in being like, you would not believe what happened to me last night. I ended up naked outside. Anyway, give me some more whiskey.
Yeah.
So
please, I'm cold.
Please. So eventually they were like, well, we don't want to be caught by the police, but we're running out of money, so they shot him in the head. and he didn't survive that. But,
so he died of...
So he died.
So he died of lead poisoning.
He died of lead poisoning. High velocity lead poisoning. But unfortunately, that it's much harder to get your life insurance off a guy with a big hole in his skull, and they were caught.
Yeah.
But people have wondered how he could ingest these lethal amounts of alcohol and still be fine. And this is why we say the Irish Rasputin, because you've heard the story of Rasputin. He was brought to a...
What was the story about Rasputin again?
So he was Rasputin, again, a man who could drink quite a lot.
Copious
amounts. And he a couple of Russian nobility wanted him to get him out of the picture because they didn't like his influence over...
Well, he was a lefty, wasn't he?
No, he was a crazy religious monk.
Oh, righty.
Okay. He was a Rasputin. He mainly just liked getting drunk and sleeping with everybody's wives.
Yeah.
That was his thing.
That's what I would like to do too.
Actually, the reason he had power is actually maybe an interesting science thing because he was a healer, and the only son of the Tsar and Tsarina was a hemophiliac. And
all these royal people had haemophilia.
Absolutely. So
they were all inbred.
Because they were all inbred. Yeah. But the little prince, he would frequently when he get injured, it would be a really serious occasion. So they would have doctors in, but they also tried mystics and all these type of people. And Rasputin ended up getting a lot of favor because he seemed to be able to cure the kid. And even
because he was calm.
Even from miles away, kind of because he was calm.
He was said to be mesmerizing, actually.
Yeah.
But the crazy one was when he cured the kid from 100 miles away.
Yeah.
Because
how did that happen?
Well, because they banished him from court for his lewd behaviour, and then the kid fell over and got sick again. and they sent a telegram to him and said, "Can you do anything?" And he sent a telegram back, saying, "Don't worry, I am performing I'm performing a ritual. Have his doctors leave him alone." And actually, this may be the key
That's
to
always a good advice.
Yeah.
That the doctors leave you fucking alone.
Well, the key to this thing, people think, is because the new wonder drug they kept giving the kid was aspirin.
Oh, give a hemophiliac aspirin.
Absolutely, give a haemophiliac a blood thinner. And when Rasputin showed up and did his magical voodoo, he made the doctors go away and stop giving the kid aspirin, and so he seemed like a wizard.
We're coming to an end now, so let's sum up.
And
Max, go ahead.
it was just a joke. The story said there was 2 letters.
Yeah.
The other one was saying, "I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything."
Oh yeah. That's the other one. But no.
So what's the summary of our thing? So poisons were always there.
Yeah, they're always there.
Max said in the first podcast that we hominoids, not even sapiens, before even sapiens, they used them on to put on arrows. Yeah. That's where the word toxicon comes from. Cormac just explained that belladonna was used as a very simple way to get your spouse out of the way. Arsenic was used also as a tonic, though, so not just as a poison, because this is we discussed this as well. So a small amount of poison is actually good for you, tiny amount. It's called hormesis, so it's because it increases your defenses. So it's almost like making your cells aware that there might be danger coming. Max is very, very heavily shaking his head there.
Yeah, it can be also double sword there, because if you get injured at the same time where you are challenging yourself
that's not
with
good.
something, that is not good.
But you discussed something like, what was it, viralization?
Yeah.
So I didn't fully ever understand that. What is viralization?
Viralization was before vaccination, actually.
But is it the same thing?
No, actually, viralization was discovery before Jenner came with the vaccine. Viralization was consisting in taking
Jenner was a creepy fucker.
Not really.
22 kids he injected with smallpox.
Yeah, but before that he got already pretty decent evidence that it should work. Yeah, he was basically injecting vaccine, and vaccine was known to be non-lethal.
He injected kids with cowpox first.
Yeah.
Which was dangerous.
That was actually what viralization was. That was the standard. The standard was viralization.
What is viralization?
Viralization is basically you take a wound,
like a scab or something like that.
Yeah, a piece of wood basically, and you scrape some. Some place where people have a trace of viral, and then you inject it to someone else, giving him viral. The reason why they were doing that's
exactly what he did, because he injected the kids with the pus from the milkmaids.
So, but the standard was to give actually the smallpox, which is the one in viral, and Jenner started with that, and then moved on with the cowpox, which was the vaccine. So
the funny thing is that
it was an improvement there. And the reason why they did that was because viral was so effective at killing people that people were basically couldn't really sustain raising kids and giving them food for seeing them dying a few years later because of viral. So then they were ready to inject them with viral and see whether they make it or not. Because if it turns that you survive it, then you're good to go and you will not die of it because then you got immune. And
you take a seat, man.
The reason is that.
Go on, sit.
So it was always challenged by the different legislation at that time whether they should keep on with viralization or not. But definitely it was a standard for a long time. Everyone was applying it.
Well, it's funny now because you say that because they found the cure for peanut allergy, and it's simply microdosing. So that's why you can't eat peanuts in a plane now, because if even a tiny particle hits the person who's hyperallergic, that could kill them.
It's not completely
anaphylaxis.
True.
No, wait, let me finish, and then you can argue. So I know people who have peanut allergies, and it's scary if you get kids with peanut allergy, because you don't know when they're going to encounter peanuts. But the cure now is just they microdose them. They just give them very tiny exposures, and your immune system. Max is shaking his head. Go on, Max.
Yeah. So the theory behind it is that, and it's well known that if you constantly stimulate a lymphocyte and in particular the lymphocytes which are producing the IgE, which are resulting in the allergy, then if you keep on stimulating it, then it will become anergic, and the anergic one are the one which stop reacting. And the idea behind this microdosing is that it's called desensibilization.
Yeah.
The idea is that you desensibilize people to their allergen by injecting them. Desensitizing. By injecting them with microdose, not only microdose, it should be also microdose without any single adjuvant. Because to get activated, the lymphocytes need two signals. One signal is actually the allergen, the other signal is the one which is triggering the inflammatory response.
Okay.
So then if it's 100% clean, like pure, then you can induce this allergic response.
Okay.
And that's the basic for all this desensitization. The problem is that, at least in France, and I know only the data for France, in the end, our legislation went for not reimbursing people anymore for that, because it was proven to be not really particularly effective, actually. So you can still apply for it, you can still get it.
So it's like homeopathy stuff.
I don't know. The theory could explain why it should work, but in the fact, the people, it costs extremely, it costs a lot, because you have to inject 100% pure, and that's where the challenge is. And then in the end, it was very costly and not very effective. So then in the end, our government said, okay, we stop with that. You can, of course, keep on doing it, but you have to pay for it.
All right, let's
So it might be that it is effective, but the problem is that when you challenge it with a lot of data, and for different type of allergy, it's not proven to be that efficient.
I assume we're going to talk for the next 5 hours anyway, so but we don't need to record it all. So closing comments, ladies and gentlemen.
No, that's actually, I think there is definitely room for part 2 on this topic of starting about discussing poisoning.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe we can look
we-
up some
we just
other
touched-
examples and then elaborate based on that.
Yeah, we just touched on it. I mean, I like the idea of Ludwig van Beethoven, who unfortunately became deaf as one of the most famous composers because he drank out of the same cup, lead poisoning. Cormac?
I just think we've covered a couple of things here, but like we've humans, as you said, have used things to poison each other for ages, but we've also used things to cure each other that sometimes worked and sometimes
we use these poisons as well, like rotenone as insecticides to kill mitochondria, and so we I mean, sapiens are pretty good at using poisons.
And I'm glad also because so far I've always released every single podcast we made with a notification that beware it could contain explicit lyrics.
Yeah.
And thanks to Cormac, now it's justified to have such.
Fucking hell!
Yeah.
Fuck off! Really? Fuck it! I mean, that's fucking ridiculous. All right.
So thank you for listening, and let's listen to our.
So bonsoir Max, bonsoir Cormac, and bonsoir listeners.
Bonsoir à tous.
Bonsoir. So long.